I'm glad you're here at Beyond 60 Stories, where every life has a story to tell. When I was younger, I believed that acceptance was something you arrived at once. Everything finally made sense. I thought it would come after the hard work was done, after love was proven, after life had been lived correctly. What I did not understand then is that acceptance does not wait for understanding. It waits for courage. At 83, looking back across a long life, I can see how much energy I spent resisting what was already true. I resisted my limits. I resisted disappointment. I resisted the parts of myself that did not fit the image I was trying to maintain. I believed that if I tried harder, endured longer, or explained myself better, life would eventually reward that effort with peace. It did not. In today's video, we're exploring the one thing I wish I had accepted decades ago, how refusing it shaped my relationships, my sense of love, and the way I moved through the world, and why accepting it earlier would not have changed my life circumstances, but would have changed how fully I lived them. Before we continue, take a moment to tap the like button and subscribe to Beyond 60 Stories. This channel is a place for reflection shaped by time, not advice given in haste, but wisdom offered slowly from one generation to the next. Lesson 1. Accepting that love cannot be earned by endurance. For most of my life, I believed love was something you proved over time. You stayed, you endured, you adjusted yourself quietly so others would feel comfortable. I thought that if I was patient enough, useful enough, and forgiving enough, love would eventually settle in and stay. This belief shaped how I loved and how I allowed myself to be loved. There was a relationship early in my adult life that defined this pattern. Nothing about it was dramatic or openly painful. On the surface, it looked stable. We showed up, we did what was expected, but underneath that stability was a quiet imbalance. I was always the one bending, always the one explaining, always the one waiting for emotional reciprocity to arrive later. I told myself this was maturity. I told myself love required sacrifice. What I did not understand then was the difference between sacrifice and erasure. I slowly edited myself to preserve peace. I softened opinions. I accepted emotional distance as normal because conflict felt worse, and because nothing clearly broke, I stayed. Years passed before I realized that endurance had replaced connection. Love was present, but it was conditional on my silence. Acceptance, the kind I avoided for decades, was not about accepting less love. It was about accepting a truth I did not want to face. Love that requires you to disappear is not deep love, no matter how long it lasts. Accepting this did not come easily because it threatened the story I told myself about loyalty and strength. It forced me to admit that patience alone does not transform neglect into intimacy. When I finally accepted this, much later in life, it was not accompanied by anger. It was accompanied by relief. Relief comes when you stop negotiating with reality. I did not need to blame anyone. I only needed to stop confusing endurance with devotion. Love, I learned, is not proven by how much you tolerate. It is revealed by how safe you feel being fully present. If I had accepted this earlier, I would not have left sooner. I would have loved more honestly. I would have spoken sooner. I would have stopped waiting for permission to be whole inside a relationship. Acceptance did not change my past. It changed how I understood it. In the next part, we will step away from story and look at why acceptance feels so threatening in the first place, and how resisting reality often disguises itself as hope. Lesson 2. Why acceptance feels like giving up, and why it isn't. For many years, I resisted acceptance because I misunderstood what it meant. I believed acceptance was the same as surrendering hope, as if agreeing with reality meant abandoning the possibility of change. This misunderstanding kept me locked in quiet battles with life as it unfolded, convincing me that strength was measured by how long I could resist what was already true. Acceptance feels threatening because it removes the illusion of control. When we resist reality, we tell ourselves we are still shaping the outcome, still negotiating with time, still holding the future open. Acceptance, by contrast, asks us to stand still and see clearly. It asks us to stop rewriting the present and to meet it without defense. That moment of clarity can feel like loss even when nothing has actually been taken away. In love, this resistance often disguises itself as optimism. We stay because we believe things will improve if we are patient enough. We excuse distance because we imagine closeness will return naturally. We accept imbalance while telling ourselves it is temporary. What we are really resisting is the truth that something may already be showing us its limits. Acceptance threatens the stories we rely on to stay comfortable. Yet acceptance is not passive. It does not tell us to stop caring or to stop trying. It tells us to stop pretending. When we accept what is, we gain the clarity to choose what comes next. Without acceptance, our choices are reactive. We respond to fear, habit, and expectation rather than intention. Acceptance creates space between what we hope for and what we are willing to live with. Many people confuse acceptance with settling, but settling happens when we stop listening to ourselves. Acceptance happens when we finally do. It allows us to ask honest questions without immediately answering them with excuses. It allows us to notice where love feels mutual and where it feels managed. It allows us to see whether endurance is nourishing us or slowly emptying us. The relief that follows acceptance is often surprising. When you stop fighting reality, energy returns. You no longer have to defend your patience or justify your waiting. You are free to choose honesty over endurance, clarity over comfort. Acceptance does not remove pain, but it prevents pain from multiplying quietly over time. If this reflection resonates with you, I invite you to share your experience in the comments. What truth did you resist accepting for years, and what changed when you finally allowed yourself to see it clearly? Your words may help someone else recognize a truth they are still avoiding. Lesson 3. Accepting who you are changes how you love. I learned early how to present the parts of myself that were easier to accept and to soften the parts that felt inconvenient. I told myself this was maturity. I believed love meant adaptation, and that being flexible was a sign of emotional intelligence. What I did not see was how often that flexibility turned into quiet self-abandonment. I remember a moment many years ago sitting across from someone I loved deeply, realizing that the conversation we were having felt strangely distant. We were speaking politely, thoughtfully, even kindly, yet something essential was missing. I noticed how quickly I filtered my words, how instinctively I avoided saying what I actually felt. It was not fear of conflict that stopped me, it was fear of being fully seen. Acceptance, when it finally arrived, did not change the other person. It changed my relationship to myself. I began to understand that love does not deepen through careful editing. It deepens through coherence. When who you are inside no longer has to negotiate with who you appear to be, presence becomes natural. You no longer have to perform safety. You become safe. Accepting myself meant allowing complexity without apology. It meant recognizing that tenderness and firmness can coexist, that boundaries do not cancel love, and that clarity is kinder than quiet endurance. Once I stopped adjusting myself to maintain harmony, conversations became simpler, not easier, but cleaner. There was less emotional residue left behind because I was no longer carrying unspoken truths forward. What surprised me most was how acceptance changed the atmosphere of love rather than its structure. Relationship did not suddenly transform, but the quality of connection shifted. There was less tension beneath ordinary moments, less monitoring, less exhaustion. Love felt less like something to protect and more like something to inhabit. Self-acceptance also revealed something difficult to face. Some relationships rely on your silence to function smoothly. When you accept yourself, you stop offering that silence automatically. This can feel stabilizing at first, but what remains after that adjustment is more honest. Acceptance does not guarantee closeness, it guarantees integrity. And over time, integrity becomes a form of peace. Looking back, I do not regret who I was when I did not yet know how to accept myself. I regret how long I believed love required my disappearance. Accepting myself earlier would not have made life perfect. It would have made it aligned, and alignment, I have learned, is what allows love to breathe. In the next part, we will step away from story again and look at how acceptance reshapes the way we face aging itself, and why accepting limitation becomes an unexpected source of freedom later in life. Lesson 4. Accepting limits is not defeat, it is oni. I thought accepting them meant shrinking my life. What I did not understand is that refusal does not expand life. It scatters it. When you deny limits, you spend precious energy arguing with reality instead of using what remains with intention. Acceptance of limits is not resignation, it is orientation. It tells you where to place your attention so that it matters. Without this orientation, we keep trying to live as if we are unlimited and end up exhausted by choices we can no longer sustain. Aging makes this visible, but it is true at every stage of life. The body signals it, relationships signal it, time signals it. Acceptance simply listens. In love, unaccepted limits create quiet strain. We expect ourselves to give endlessly, to stay flexible forever, to adapt without rest. We confuse love with availability and loyalty with depletion. Acceptance reframes this. It allows us to love within capacity rather than beyond it. Love becomes steadier when it is honest about what it can hold. When you accept limits, priorities sharpen. You stop investing equally in everything you choose. Depth over breadth, presence over performance, meaning over momentum. This is not a loss of ambition, it is a refinement of it. Life becomes less crowded and more inhabited. You no longer try to outrun time. You begin to walk with it. Many people fear that accepting limits will make them less relevant, less needed, less valued. In reality, it often has the opposite effect. When you stop stretching yourself thin, what you offer becomes clearer and more reliable. Your presence carries weight, your words land, your love feels intentional. Acceptance also frees us from comparison. When you know your limits, you stop measuring yourself against lives that are not yours to live. You become accountable only to your own capacity and values. This brings a quiet confidence that does not need to announce itself. It allows you to rest without guilt and to engage without resentment. As I look back now at 83, what surprises me most is not what life gave or took away, but how long it took me to stop arguing with reality. I spent decades believing that acceptance would come later, after I understood more, achieved more, or proved myself worthy of peace. What I learned instead is that acceptance does not arrive as a reward, it arrives as a decision. Not accepting what is does not make life smaller, it makes it clearer. When you stop resisting your limits, your nature, and the truth of your relationships, energy returns. You are no longer split between who you are and who you think you should be. Love becomes steadier because it is no longer negotiated. Time feels fuller because it is no longer postponed. I wish I had known earlier that acceptance is not passive, it is an active way of standing inside your life. It is choosing honesty over endurance, presence over performance, and alignment over approval. This does not erase pain, but it prevents pain from quietly shaping every choice. If this video resonated with you, please take a moment to like it and subscribe to Beyond 60 Stories. This channel exists to share reflections shaped by time, experience, and quiet honesty.